Hi everyone, Keisha Witzel here, quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. I just recently decided that it's time to share some of these incredible stories with all of you and who are willing to listen because I keep thinking that I need to put some of these incredible sessions into a book, but I just can't get my shit together enough to do that. So this seems to maybe be a little bit easier, and so I've decided to see if this works. So I'm giving it a try. Um, I'm going to start with this very recent session that I did. It was just about a week ago, and I met with a man. He was diagnosed 3 years ago with stage 4 lung cancer, and still living today because obviously he has a very strong will to live. I drove to see him because he's in excruciating pain all the time, and there was no way he was able to make the hour-and-a-half drive to come and see me. So I went to his home and I spent the first couple hours talking to he and his wife, and mostly talking about what it was like growing up in Albania in the 80s when Albania was a very communist country. Um, and so many incredible learnings in listening to that. And they were chosen for a lottery, and that's how they made it to the U.S. And they obviously came here for freedom. And um, when they got here, it was not so easy. It was very, very difficult. As you can imagine, they came here with $500 in their pocket, two very small children. One was an infant, the other was under the age of 2, I believe, and had no idea what they were doing. They had $500 in their pocket and a phone number, which the person didn't answer the phone for the first 3 days. So they spent the first 3 nights with their two small children in the airport. Finally, someone answered the phone and gave them a ride to a nearby hotel that cost them $100 for the night. And then eventually they made it to another hotel that cost them $200, I think, for the week, maybe 2 weeks. And they're left with a couple $100 in their pocket and end up in a studio apartment with two other families and two other small children and another man. And so there's 7 people sleeping on the floor of a studio apartment in Brooklyn, New York. And this man got his first job as a busboy in a diner and also a construction job. And in Albania, he was a ballerina and a choreographer of dance, and also a very high ranking man in the military. His wife was a chemistry teacher, and which were very good jobs, very low paying good jobs in Albania. And he made $200 a month. She made $120 a month. And they come here to the US, and he is working in a diner as a busboy, and so grateful to be here. And so, um, as I'm listening to him, I'm thinking about how degrading that must have felt for him because he was, like I said, a very high-ranking military officer and a choreographer traveling to different countries with the ballet and things like that. And then he comes here and he's a busboy in a diner. And I'm thinking about how degrading that was. And it became very clear to me that there was not one teeny tiny little part of him that felt that way about it. He was so grateful. However, one of the things that he told me that he quickly learned was that um, freedom is not found in the physical world. And so that was quite a learning. And so he raised his family here. They ended up having 2 more children, and yeah, so many parts to that. But like I said, I'm trying to keep this this short and like short and sweet and wrap it all up and just share with you the most important points. And so he goes into a session, and he is in this village. There's a beautiful stream close by, very happy environment. He has a garden. He loves to grow tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and things. And there's cows, and he's having this interaction with this cow that was quite beautiful. Um, and and remember, this man is literally in excruciating pain the entire time. And it was quite unbelievable to me that he was able to be in that much pain and share with me the things that he was sharing with me. And geez, I'm trying really hard to summarize this. I tell myself, don't try to prepare for it. Don't write anything down. Just share the main points. And so there was a moment in the beginning when I first got to his house where I needed to have an understanding of where he is at spiritually and what his beliefs are. And he believes in God. And he made it very clear that his lung cancer he attributes to his smoking, and he doesn't believe that the physical condition that he is experiencing has anything to do with the things that he experienced throughout his life, and solely because he was a heavy smoker. And so I just shared with him that in the work that I do, we believe that the physical, spiritual, emotional, mental body, everything is all connected. And oftentimes in the work that I do, the lungs are related to grief. And so he was open to hear that. And there was a lot of crying and even talking before we did the hypnosis part. So he was definitely releasing a lot of emotions, and he wasn't opposed to anything that I was sharing with him. He was very open to me explaining to him how I work with people and how I interpret things. And it's not that I think that I'm right. It's just it's interesting when you do enough of these. When you work with enough people, you do start to make correlations to different things, and grief is oftentimes associated with the lungs. And so there was a moment where he was in the stream. I asked him if he could go into the stream by his house in this little village. This is in the hypnosis part. This is not in real life. This is in his imagination, if you want to call it that, wherever this is coming from. And he was floating on his back, enjoying the water. And in real life, his entire body had just totally relaxed. And so the last, I would say, hour of his session, he was in a very, very relaxed state, which was not the case at all up until this point. And that was quite beautiful to see. And at one point, he was sharing with me, um, a real life situation where he was smoking a cigarette with his friend in the living room, and his daughter, she was, I think, 5 years old, came into the room, and she moved his ashtray closer to him so that it would be easier for him to reach. And he said that she just loved him so much, and she wanted to make him happy. And I asked him if that made him feel guilty, and he said yes, of course it does. And I said to him, but you didn't know at the time that this is where you would be now. If you would have known then that this is where you would be now, you would have not made the same choices. And so He said, yes, that's true. And so I asked him if he could go back to his garden and go back to the moment where he was planting tomato seeds. And he said, yes, he could go back there. Because when his daughter brought him the ashtray, he said to me, you reap what you sow. And so he believed that this is, you know, these are the seeds that he's sown. Now he's paying for these poor choices that he's made. And so I asked him to go back to the garden when he was planting the tomato seeds, and he went back to that place, and I asked him if he could pick the dirt up in his hands and smell the dirt, and he said, yes, I can do that. And so he picked the dirt up, and he was smelling it in his hands, and I asked him if he could bring the smell of the dirt into his entire being, into his entire body, and feel what the smell smells like. And he said, yes, I can do that. And then I asked him if he could go to when the tomato plant had the most perfectly grown, ripened tomato on it, and if he could pick that tomato and if he could take a bite of the tomato. And he said, yes, I can do that. And he took a bite of the tomato, and I asked him, can you allow yourself to feel the taste of that tomato throughout your entire being? And he said, yes, I can do that. And I said, can you remember every time that you start to have a thought come into your mind of the guilt that you're carrying and the seeds that you've sown so many seeds of nurturing and caring and love for your family. And that's why your daughter wanted to do this nice thing for you and bring the ashtray, because you were kind to her and you loved her and you nurtured her. And so you've also sown those seeds of nurturing and love. And he said, yes, I can do that. And so just to give you an idea of how everything is all connected, and what it truly means to listen with our entire being and to feel. And listening is not only with the ears, obviously, it's with every bit of our being. And so then toward the end of the session, I asked him if he could close his mouth and take a deep breath in through his nose and make whatever sound comes to him without thinking about it. And he did that, and he started humming, and he was bringing the sound into his heart, into his belly, into his brain, into the pain, into the area of his body, into the pain. And we were talking about how his body is the perfect instrument. We are all these perfect instruments, and how he can tune his own instrument by using his own voice and his own breath, his own thoughts, every single bit of him. And as he's doing that, he stops at one point and he says to me, it's always about harmony and balance. And I said, yeah, always. That's what it's all about all the time. And he said, it's like you take all of the things, and he said, you take all of the things, and he was doing this thing with his hands, and he said, you take all of the things in your mind, and you take all of the things in your heart, and you take all of the things that you've experienced in your life, and he said, all of the people that you've interacted with, all of the love that you've shared, all of the anger, all of the hate, all of the horrible things, you take all of the things and you take them all together and you put them into this tiny little thing. And he said, it's the most brilliant tiny little diamond, and you put them all in like this tiny little diamond, and that's what you give to the world. And I said, yeah, thank you for that. what a gift. What an amazing gift. And that was the best gift I could ever have received that day, or even, I don't know, like truly a gift. And so we wrap up this session and I'm driving home and I'm thinking, how do I get to do this with people? How is this my life? And I'm so grateful all the time. And I'm so thankful because I think of even that experience that I just had with that man. I was sitting in this stranger's bed next to him for hours, and I felt so at home. I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. And um, such a warm welcome. And he was crying a lot. And when I was walking out the door, his wife said to me, "He never cries." And um, since then, his daughter shared with me that he's been very quiet and he's been very introspective. And I know that something shifted for him in that moment. And I know that something shifted for me in that moment. And I know that I get to add that experience into this tiny little thing. And when I think about that, that concept, it's why I feel like I need to share some of these stories. I have to share them, and that's what the message was for me in him sharing that with me. It's like, it's at the point where I can't keep all of this to myself because it's just too beautiful. So, thank you for listening.